Good evening and welcome to our Year 8 Guided Pathways virtual evening. I'm very sorry that you're not able to join us in person this evening, but I hope that this evening's presentations and information you will receive will give you the normal kind of procedures that we would go through in person. But the most important thing this evening is that should you have any questions, no matter how small or how big, please do get in touch with us. My name is Mr. Parsons, head teacher at Sawtry Village Academy. I'm going to be speaking this evening alongside Mr. Bridgman, assistant principal, who has responsibility for the guided pathways process and choices that you are going to be making. We're going to go over some key information, what is going to happen over the next few weeks, and as I mentioned, should there be any questions, please do not hesitate to touch. We're very proud of the achievements that Sawtry has had over the last few years, particularly with our exam results. Now, although we didn't have exams in person last year because students didn't sit them, you will see that between 2016 and 2019, where exams were sat, that a good pass in English and Maths, which is a 4 and above, we reached well above national average, which was 72%. The results that we achieved last year, would have exceeded that, and once again, we're very proud of what students achieved with those results. One of the most important measures that a school receives is the progress that its students make, which is the progress that they make from year 7 right until the end of year 11 when they've made those GCSE exams and sat them. Now, the red line there is a 0, and that is national average. There are roughly 3,000 secondary schools in England, and approximately half of those are above the red line and half of them are below. 0.41, which we achieved in 2019, is not far off half a grade on average across all GCSEs that students sit in comparison to other students nationally. So you will see that the lines there, the blue lines in particular, are fairly impressive in terms of the comparison to national average. Last year, the results that went in terms of what students attained last year and the progress that they would have made if they sat exam results were incredibly impressive and well above that half a grade on average compared to national. Similarly, the progress that our students make in sixth form, so students that have been with us from year 7, quite often all the way up to year 13, over the last few years, we have maintained a progress measure above 20%, in terms of the top 6 forms in England. We're incredibly proud of that, and that represents the outstanding grading that we received for Ofsted for our sixth form. Exam results have been incredibly impressive at Sawtry over the last few years, but most importantly, the destination of students, whether that be post-16 or post-18, is an important priority for Sawtry, whether that be a student who goes on to employment, an apprenticeship, university, higher education, further education. Our CIIG that takes place right from year 7 is incredibly impressive. And behind every student, there are some incredible success stories. The main purpose of this evening and going forwards is for your son or daughter to make the choices that they will be starting in year 9 and following for 3 years. So the reason why we start this very early in February is it allows us time to make sure that the information you receive and the choices that you make are absolutely well informed and are taken as seriously as what they should be. Before those choices are made, it's worth just outlining and thinking about what the core curriculum is in terms of the staple diet that every student in this school follows, by the end of year 11 in terms of certification and exams that students will sit alongside courses in terms of core provision that are not examined. Every student follows GCSE English Language and Literature, which is 2 separate GCSEs. Every student follows GCSE Mathematics, and every student follows a GCSE Science course. During year 10 and by the end of year 10, we make the decision in line with informing parents about those students that follow a pathway of 3 separate sciences where they get 3 separate GCSEs: biology, chemistry and physics. Students also follow a combined science, okay, in terms of the different approach. Now the combined science, which is 2 GCSEs, is inclusive of biology, chemistry and physics, but there is a definite separate pathway that some students follow, okay, and those pathways are decided upon over the course of year 9 and year 10. Alongside those GCSEs, in terms of the core curriculum, at Sawtry, we have put very much an importance on ICT skills. All students follow that of an hour per week in year 9. It is non-examined. However, we consider that to be such an important skill set, not just in terms of the useful skills that have been apparent now while students have been ongoing during remote learning, but very much for the future in terms of the world of work and how important ICT skills are. Alongside that, core PE, which is non-examined, all students follow that. Okay, that is separate to those students that may choose an examined course of PE. Every student has that on their timetable, as physical activity is important, and we continue that right until the end of year 11. An incredibly strong pathway that we also have on our core curriculum is core studies, that is non-examined, but the personal, social and health education of our students is absolutely critical importance to us, and that pathway is very much a core part of our curriculum. After this evening, students will receive an individualised option form. Now that form has been carefully analysed to support and guide students towards what we believe will absolutely fulfil their best potential in terms of the suite of qualifications that students will attain by the end of year 11. It's consideration of how to make sure that life choices in the long term are not limited by restricting a curriculum now, and making sure it is as broad and balanced as possible. It also takes into consideration progression into post-16 education, whether that be at sixth form at Sawtry, whether that be in a further education college, or whether that be into employment with training.
Thank you for going through that with us, Mr. Parsons. As you may have noticed, the voice has changed. My name is Mr. Bridgman. I'm assistant principal here at Sawtry, and I'm going to take you through the last part of the presentation to go through more of the mechanics and what happens now, and try and answer as many questions that come up throughout the time. And again, I appreciate that we're not here all in one hall together, but we will do our best virtually for now. So let's start with the English Baccalaureate. Some of you will have heard the term EBAC, or the English Baccalaureate, being thrown around. It is a suite of qualifications. So English, maths, science, A humanity and A language. And if a student is to achieve all of those, they can say out loud that they have passed or they have obtained the English Baccalaureate. Now the government believes that that is a broad, class that's as a broad, a balanced curriculum. And they have desires that they've published that they would like 75–90% of the country to achieve them. Now you do not get a certificate in it, okay, and it's or a grade. It's simply just that you can say that you have that suite of qualifications. Now years ago it was said that universities favour it or even require it, and every year around this time I try and do as much research as I can to see if that has changed. And I can't find many universities that demand it as something you must have, more as a preference. So it is something to bear in mind on that front, and also the fact that it doesn't close any doors for you for achieving it. Okay. We'll now talk about what you will actually study come September. So in the green box, as Mr. Parsons already told us, we've got English language, English literature and maths GCSEs. Fine, everybody studies those. Same with the orange box, science. Everybody will continue to have science lessons. You will all work through science, and then towards the end of year 10 they'll guide you to, or let you know whether or not you're going to be sort of doing double or triple. Okay, so nothing needs to be done there. You don't need to tick double or triple science with your preference now. Your science teacher will help guide you through that at a later point. And then in the blue box on the left, as Mr. Parsons mentioned, we've got core PE, core studies and core IT. Again, everybody does them. They're there to make sure we're staying fit and healthy, our mental health and our well-being is still kept in check, and obviously we're still improving our skills in IT. So onto the good bits, the choices you actually make then. So when this electronic form comes through for you to pick, the first choice, or one of the choices, will be geography or history. Okay, you've got to pick one or the other. And as we remember from our EBAC slide just now, that ticks that humanities box. Then we start to see differences in the forms. The blue box saying choice 2 is our languages choice, and the majority of students are guided to do language. And I would strongly suggest if you've been studying French, you tick French and so on. It isn't there for every single student. Some students have been pulled out of languages to do extra support or gone down a different pathway already, and so you may see you have more choices in the green box labelled choices 3 and 4. So choice 1 was geography or history, choice 2 was your language. The remaining choices then are in that large green box. And some of the common questions I get asked are, if I picked geography in choice 1, can I pick history in the big green box? The answer is yes, you can do both humanities. Okay, so you can pick from either 2 or 3 of those in the large green box. You'll notice it says at the bottom art or textiles and resistant materials or graphics. Okay, and there's also in there IT or computer science. Those courses are similar in nature. For example, the resistant materials and the graphics course, you do different coursework worth half the grade, but then you actually sit the exact same exam paper. You just answer it in a slightly different way based on the skill set. So we don't encourage students to do that, or it would be almost pointless to do that because you can't sit the same exam at the same time twice. So they're built in for things that you are guided not to select. Okay. So once you've made your choices, and we begin in September, we class that as moving in towards Key Stage 4. And the way we report how students are getting on in that time changes. Okay, at the moment you're talking about bands and P's and P pluses for progress on those profiles we send home. But that's going to change, and we're going to start talking to you guys in GCSE grades much more. Okay, so it's important we know where we're at. The new gradings for the GCSEs will be done in 1 to 9. 9 being old school A star almost, and coming all our way down. In old money, it used to be, oh, I really want to get a C grade. Well, that is converted over to a 4 now. So 4 and above tends to be what people talk about when they go for GCSE gradings. Okay, and your learning profiles that come home, every time we report, we will start to predict grades using that scale. Okay, if a BTEC course has been selected, then it tends to come home as a distinction star, distinction, merit, pass, or not yet pass, or even a level 1 pass. And a pass BTEC is a level 4, and it goes up accordingly like that. But if you're doing a BTEC course, that will be communicated to you on your profile. Now, Mr. Parsons mentioned earlier our great attainment results and how they've been increasing over the last few years, as well as our Progress 8 score. You may have heard this sort of bandied around, and schools tend to advertise their Progress 8 score and attainment. And it's made up by each individual student being added together and putting a score together for the school. The blue boxes on the left-hand side are English and Maths, and they are double weighted. So the government takes whatever grade a student gets, let's say they came out with a grade 5, and they double that, so it's double points, which is why schools are so rigid on English and Maths. There's then some EBAC qualifications, which you can see in the brackets, and then the open buckets. And you'll, by the time you finish the form, notice that you will end up as a student with about 9 qualifications. Okay, if you end up doing triple science, you'll actually end up with 10. So we at the school make sure we cover the full range of Progress 8 buckets, okay, as they're called, or cylinders as you see them there, and we allow a little bit of play to add that extra broad choice for students. And that is a formula that has worked for years and has helped be part of our school's improvement over time. So not a lot to do, just explaining there if you see those terms bandied around what they mean. Okay, it's time to start talking about some advice that you would be getting from young people, older students, if this was the evening going on. Okay, so these are the things I just want you to consider when you go through this guided process together as a family. You know, the questions I mentioned earlier: what do I want to do when I leave education? What subjects do I need to get for my dream job? Okay, what am I good at? What am I not so good at? What challenges me? What interests me? Okay, and what kind of lifestyle do I want? So all of those should be playing part in those discussions around the dinner table. Some really important ones in red there. Please, please do not pick a subject just because your friend is. You are in secondary school, your friends change, your interests change, and just because your friend likes it doesn't even mean to say you would even be in the same class together. Okay, so picking it because your friend is a bad move. The same goes for the teacher. Often we get students who say, oh, I'm not sure, I'll go with this one because I like the teacher. Well, the teachers change. You may not get that teacher. Okay, you may get a different one within that subject. You don't know. And so for picking it for that reason is also something we would strongly suggest against. Okay. Now, I mentioned that we've got lots of advice going on. On our school website, and the email that you've been sent tonight during this presentation has got the link on it. Takes you to a web page where we have a options brochure, okay, a booklet if you like. We do the same booklet every year, and effectively every subject has got one page to itself and it tells you about the course. Okay, this is really important and you need to read these because some people say, oh, I think I like, say, history. They read the brochure page and think, oh, that is not for me, there's too much coursework or there's too many exams and I'm more of a sort of a practical person. You really need to ask yourself the questions, what topics will I be studying? Again, with history, it may be in the GCSE syllabus, it's World War II and you hate World War II. Okay, so you need to have a look at the topics you'll be studying. You need to look at how you will be assessed. Is it exams? How many exams? Is it coursework? What percent is coursework? Is it internally marked or externally marked? You need to be aware of it because it will dictate how your lessons go, okay? And what kind of things you'll be asked to do and produce. And then you want to make sure that you're happy with the exam board. There's often the exam board links are on there. Often they give away free revision guides or resources to help you get started. And so have a good read and make sure you're picking a subject that you've had a look at. And my last one is what I would call the wild card. Often people they pick a couple of choices. Oh, I really want to do PE. I really want to do art. And then sometimes they struggle for the third and they just pick whatever. Okay, they don't really think too much about it. Please have a full read of the brochure. Maybe what I would call the wild card. Go and read about media. Even if you have never thought media was interesting, you don't know anything about it, have a good read. Because you may find that there is a subject you've never thought of that actually sounds amazing at GCSE. There's subjects like health and social care, business, media studies. You've never studied these as students. Okay, these are new ones that are introduced as of now. Make sure you read them all. Okay, don't just assume you know what's going on. Okay, and if I was an older student in form time with the students, because that's why one of the real strengths of our vertical tutoring system, we'd be setting students up to talk to each other about that kind of thing. Oh, how's the course? What are the lessons like? How much homework do you get? All of those kind of things I can't really answer for you in a presentation like this. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do that again in the future. But for now, if you do want to ask those kind of questions, please let your form tutors know and they'll hook somebody up who's in your house to do that. So what happens next? Let's get to the mechanics of it. You're watching hopefully this presentation tonight and maybe even re-watching it a few times just to make sure you've got all the details in. We want you to spend February half term, then at the coming weeks, talking, researching, discussing at home all the possibilities, sleep on a decision, write down what your choices are going to be, sleep on it, come back to it. Can you justify why you made those choices to mum and dad? Okay. You'll notice the logo there, Unifrog. The school has paid a large amount of money to join the Unifrog website, and there'll be details coming out in the next sort of day or so of reminders of logins, etc. Effectively, it's a website where you go in and you type in a few things that you enjoy. Maybe I enjoy rugby, maybe I enjoy writing, and if it will take that combination and it will display for you all the different kinds of jobs you could do. And what qualifications you need to get there, and how much you'll get paid, and what kind of holidays you'll get. So it's a really good careers-based website, and you definitely want to go on there. And you can do it in reverse. You can type in what subjects you think you're going to study, and it will spit out the jobs that might lead to. So you can do it either way. Okay. But by the 5th of March, so that is that deadline day, we would like the forms all submitted in, as we start to plan our next year's timetable already. Now, normally, if this was an evening, you'd all be stood there with a bit of paper, and I'd be talking through the form and how you fill it in. We can't do that this year because of COVID, and so in a second I'm going to talk you through how to fill that out online. Before we do, I need a bit of a disclaimer, if you like. We as a school do our best to give all the students their first choices. Okay, and whatever your the students put as their first choice, we do tend to get 100%. So the first subject will be on there. However, it isn't always possible. Reasons such as in the food room, there are only 20 cooking stations. So one class is maxed out at 20 people. Now we have a couple of classes, but that still caps us at, say, 40 students. Same with RM and graphics, because of the size of the room and the resources. We're capped there. And you may find that when we do figure out the timetable and put them all together, 2 subjects you've picked are on at the same time. So you may pick, I don't know, RM and PE, but the system generating it with everyone's votes once they're in may say that those 2 subjects are on at the same time, which is why we ask you for a reserve choice. Okay, so I'm talking mainly about the open bucket area, that open choice selection. So you'll look in there and maybe you have to make 2 or 3 choices. Let's say you pick art, PE and ICT. Fine. What you need to decide when you're entering on the system is which one is the most important to you. Because actually, let's say IT was your favourite. Of course, why wouldn't it be? That needs to go in first as choice number 1. PE might be your second, fine, and then art is your third. And then there'll be a reserve choice. So that when we do put the timetable together, if there are clashes, we know to try and get you that first choice as opposed to the third. Or if the class is oversubscribed, and let's say we've got 21 people and there's only 20 spaces, well, we're going to try and get the people who picked it as their first choice in first, then the second choice, and then third choice would go last, and we'd try and figure it out and try and use people's reserves to make everybody happy. So making a reserve choice is important, and also ranking your choices is also really important, just in case there's any clashes. So as we come to the end then, thank you all for listening. Please replay the video as many times as you wish, especially if you've got any queries or questions, but also email in. The email addresses are on both the website and the emails you'll get today for any and all questions. Okay, so once this is done, please move your way down the web page, look at the brochure. Each subject department has made a little video about them, and what they're doing there is trying to answer questions that you would probably have asked them on the evening. They've been doing it for so many years that they're used to the sort of standard, oh, what about this, what about that? So do watch those videos, especially for the subjects you're interested in, and then maybe pick a couple of random ones just to double check that's not for you. Look in your inbox, hopefully around 6 o'clock, and the system will have generated an email for you on how you submit your options forms. You will be using the parent app to do it. Okay, and as I mentioned before, you can see the picture there. Rank them. That person there has gone art first, food as their second choice, business as their third choice, and geography as their reserve. Please make sure that they are in the right order before you hit the submit button. But you do have until Friday the 5th of March to do that. If an email doesn't arrive, if there's problems, then please contact us, either Ms. Johnson or myself, using the emails from the web page. Okay. Thank you again for listening. I do apologise that we're not sort of together and it's had to be done virtually. It is a very big decision. We are very conscious that students need to take their time and think about it, and that they need to ask as many questions as they see fit. Okay. Other than that, I wish you good night and thank you again for listening. Please be in contact with any and all questions.